Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/215, and you can email the show pedalshift@pedalshift.net or call the voicemail hotline at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 215th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. Very excited to be sharing Day 2, Segment 2 of the 4x44 Gap Loop. I mean, Day 2, at least on paper, was the most chill of the 4 segments. I mean, it was all downhill, and it was the coolest of the remaining days. But with an unexpected state of affairs in Ohiopyle, will my chilly day become the most stressful of the entire tour? Good morning. Day 2 of the 4x44 Gap Loop begins here in Rockwood, Pennsylvania. A few things to chat about before I break camp here. Lovely camp. Very lightly attended. When I checked in, which I did not mention in the final version of last night's edition, how do I say this? I didn't get, the folks that were checking me in, the owners, weren't super chatty. So I didn't kind of engage with conversation, because what I'm really interested to find out is, hey, are there fewer, the same, or more people using their facilities this year? Data point here right now, there is one family who are badass. They've got extra cycles, I think. They're definitely long tails, and they've got like 1,000 children with them. I mean, all hanging off the bike, or they had the bikes being towed behind it. I've never seen anything like it. It's impressive as hell. They are at the lower level by the riverside. I chose a spot up here away from kind of everything, just because I tend to like to be away from things. But to be honest, they're the only ones here that are on bicycles. There are some folks that seem to be a little more permanently set up. And I say permanently in air quotes, but they actually have their vehicles down there, which according to the rules, they aren't supposed to. But I think that there is some kind of a understanding or deal with those folks. I don't know what the situation is with them, but they are maybe a couple hundred yards away from me right now. And we'll say a couple hundred meters for you metric types. The rest of the camp is enormous. I mean, there are dozens of spots. None of them are being used. And I'm wondering if this is at least some indicator of, that was a Friday night in the summer, was good weather. There's good weather today, although we're in a cloud bank right now. I think that this is my first indication that what I've noticed on the C&O is probably also true here on the Gap, that there's lower use. Based on just what I'm seeing. I think today/tonight will be interesting, because Connellsville's setup is interesting. It does get folks who are without homes occasionally come and use it, and I don't know if that's going to be the case for tonight, but we will see. I think that the use is meant to be just for campers that are kind of rolling through town. It is patrolled by police. I don't know if they enforce that specifically, but it'll be interesting to see. I've never had an issue one way or the other with anybody in that spot, so we'll see how that all goes. The breakfast for this morning was a fantastic iced coffee, a cold brew, my special cold brew. There was one, wait, can you hear it? Nope. There was one lone little piece of coffee ice that had not melted yet overnight. And that was a nice treat. So yes, I do have the nice cold iced coffee. Although I will say, not necessary this morning. We're in the, I'd say, mid-60s at best. And it is, as I mentioned, we are in the midst of a little bit of a fog bank right now. It is delightful. This is my kind of weather. It was funny because I thought I would sleep in a little bit more and then maybe leave a little bit later. But as it turns out, I just got to the point where I was like, okay, it's time to get up. And it was about 7:30 or so, which is typically, I'd say at home, I'm usually up with the dogs, pardon the stretch right there while I was getting a piece of garbage. Typically, I'm up with the dogs. On days that I go out for a ride, I can be up as early as 6:30. Other days, some days I can sleep much later. But today, 7:30 felt about right. I have a sleep tracker that goes with my watch, which I thought, I don't need to do this while I'm camping. But as it turns out, it's kind of interesting to see what my sleep pattern is like. I had the feeling that I was tossing and turning all night, that I had a lot of interrupted sleep. Turns out I didn't. I had I think it was up and down a little bit more than normal, but I had all of the good sleep that I needed and not as much of the interrupted sleep. So that's interesting. I thought that was kind of a fun bit of information. So I had mentioned my breakfast, the coffee, A+. I also, just as part of my morning ritual, which is the same at home, I made in a peanut butter jar, shouts to peanut butter jar Matt, and of course this was cleaned out, a brand new coffee for tomorrow. So I ground up good coffee before I left, something I would normally not do, but I just didn't feel like bringing my grinder with me because this requires a ton of extra ground coffee to make. So I put the ground coffee in, filled it up with water, sealed it up. And it's going to stay like that for 24 hours basically. And I've got a coffee filter, a special ground coffee filter that will go over my cup, and it will become my coffee tomorrow. Not as cold. Well, maybe not. Well, let's get to that in a moment. My day will end up going to Connellsville, as I'd mentioned. The cold bag, man, just a delightful treat. I have I have more cold beers than I can possibly shake a stick at right now. Certainly enough that would get me through probably the rest of this ride. So do I leave them? Do I take them? Well, of course I take them. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bag of ice when I get to Connellsville tonight, and then I'll have an overnight cold coffee. It will cool down the beers, which will inevitably get warmer again today. But I think I'm going to do that. And of course, I'll eat like a king tonight because grocery store, resupply stop. And everything seems to be working well. I definitely think that this is a great campsite. The logistics of it are a little challenging. I mentioned no cell phone signal. That's what you've got in this area no matter what. It seems like here during COVID days that they're definitely taking credit cards. I'm so used to everyone taking credit cards and not taking cash. But in order for a credit card to be swept, you definitely have to go over across the way there to the town. And it's funny because, you can see the house. It's across the Castleman River here. But you got to go down the trail around, across the bridge and over. So it's a little bit of a thing. It's not that big of a deal. It's actually kind of clever when you think about it. But anyways, so there's that level. There's also the bathhouses are over there. So if you want to get a shower, that's where you got to get it done. I think the way I did it last night was the way to do it. Go over, just ride right past, make sure that there's campsites. There were plenty. Cross the river, go over, check in, take your shower then, because you got all your stuff there, then come back and then start your night. And I think that worked out really well. If I stay here again, I will follow that same principle on Sunday. I am toying with maybe doing a wild camp instead. I think it's all going to depend on do I need / want to shower for that final night. So we'll see. I think it's going to depend on the conditions. Man, if I'm riding and stuff like this, though, I mean, this is Oregon coast right here, which is making me very nostalgic and very much missing the Oregon coast. But hey, I'm getting the weather given to me. So I'll be going through Ohiopyle this morning on the way to Connellsville. That's basically the only thing between here and there. Beautiful area. probably my favorite part of the Great Allegheny Passage. If you are going to ride and can only ride one part of this trail, that's the one that I would recommend. Now, the trick is that getting to the trail, it's easiest if you're going to, unless you're taking a private vehicle, it's obviously easiest to be either going to Pittsburgh or to Cumberland, I guess by Amtrak. But if you're going to drive someplace and maybe do a loop, you could do a lot worse than do either exactly what I'm doing, Cumberland to Connellsville and back, or perhaps even making your midpoint Ohiopyle, and you could go to Pittsburgh and back, and you would get a really nice section of the trail there. Lots of arguments for going the other direction because, of course, you get the downhill, but as you know, you have to go back uphill again, and it's a climb. It's a climb. Okay, that is it for this morning. I will check in with you later on. One last adieu to the trains and to mile marker 44. I just got a picture of the bike with it, and lo and behold, I can't remember when I stickered up the mile marker 44. Very out of sight. It's not meant to be seen unless you know what you're looking for. You would not see it unless you go to the back of it, but it is still there, and I believe that was from last year. So this is almost 18 months later. So that's pretty fantastic. Mile marker 44. All right, leg 2, off we go. Let's see. This is the all tunnel trail journal, so I would be remiss if I did not take you all through the Pinkerton Tunnel. Until a couple of years ago, this was not here. Well, it was here, the mountain was here, but the tunnel was not built, or was not retrofitted for bicycling usage. And there's a bypass trail. The bypass trail still exists, which is actually worth doing if you would like. It only adds maybe an extra mile or so to your mileage. But the tunnel's really nice. Corrugated steel, because Western PA, and really nice. Unlit. It's got a few reflectors on there. Not super long, as you'll hear. We'll be through this in a little bit. Interesting to note, the trail surface is so untouched by weather that this is about as good as you get of well-compacted but untouched by weather version of the surface. It is disorienting to ride through this with no lights until you get close to either end. You see the sides move, but you have no perception of the ground moving under you. It's really weird and cool, but worth doing. The Pinkerton Tunnel, a real nice element here of the Great Allegheny Passage. Morning, how are you?
Good. Where's the next bridge?
Next bridge? Actually, right after the tunnel. Yeah. Well, that was delightful. Presumably, kids who are loving the bridges. And there are some good bridges. This one's much better than the one I just pointed out to. Goes over the Castleman River in a just glorious way. Boy, I'll tell you what. I am Team CNO. I am on record, but you just don't get these views on the CNO quite like this. The bridges. Yesterday, I failed to mention there's the longest bridge on the entire gap goes over an interstate, the train, and the Castleman River. It's enormous. It might even be, I don't think it's a mile long, but it's really long. But this one is nice and long and just picturesque views of the Castleman. The next, I would say from here to Confluence is a gorgeous ride. Really nice. Green tunnels. If you're a green tunnel person like I am, this is fantastic. You just don't get much better than this. Trail conditions are usually excellent from here on, typically. I just went through a stretch where I would say when it's wet, the trail's a little soft, but it wasn't so bad today. But basically here it gets you to Confluence. Confluence, nice town, good camping option there. Although don't expect the amenities to be open at any given time because I've had some bad luck. During times I would have expected the bathrooms to be open, and they weren't. This is an Army Corps engineer site, which I know I've mentioned on the pod before because I've, well, stayed there a few times. Interesting. I don't know if I would say, I think Husky Haven's definitely a better, a nicer stay. It's just beautiful. But I think that at least you get, if you want the cell signal and you want to be connected, you know, you're better off there in Confluence. I think I prefer Confluence as a town. Of course, it's bigger. But it also has an ebb and flow of available services. I tend to go to this like little hamburger shack ice cream place that reminds me of some of the places I'd go to as a kid, and perhaps you too. So I always like going there, and they have a ridiculous amount of very high caloric food, i.e. perfect. So just beautiful section of the trail. I'm glimpsing back here, huge rocks formations. I mean, they did a lot of work to carve the right of way here for the rail line back in the day, and of course now we're the beneficiaries of that since the rail line was abandoned, and we now get to bike on the right of way on this beautiful trail. Just a beautiful way to start the morning. It is starting to warm up a little bit. The sun is poking through, so you know, I'll get probably a quarter of my ride in under these nice cool conditions. Predominantly downhill. Had a real, I mean, downhill is almost overstating it. It's definitely, it allows you to pedal, and coast for a moment, which frankly, I haven't had in so long. I have only been on trails that are flat. And while that's nice, it is nice to have a little bit of elevation change again. And you better believe I'm going to love bombing down the hill on the way back. I think that'll be fun. But I'm going to pay for it. I'm getting the benefits of the climb yesterday just by having this great downhill slight grade that allows me this sort of more chill day. Tomorrow is going to be predominantly an uphill. Again, very slight, very unnoticeable, but you won't be able to coast. There's going to be no breaks at all tomorrow, so I may consider an earlier start, take advantage of this nice weather in the mornings at least. I do expect it to be hot again. Drank an insane amount of water over the last 24 hours, and that's a good thing. Feel very good. Hydration, kids. Here we go, mile marker 53. Why don't we just say adieu right here. All right, crossing a bridge outside of Ohiopyle. I have bike toured a lot. Maybe not as much as other folks, but I'll take the podcaster's privilege and say that I've bike toured a fair amount in the last bunch of years. I've never been more terrified than what I just went through in Ohiopyle. I couldn't get out of that town fast enough. It's a nice town. There's lots. It's great. I don't think I've been here during a prime time kind of August thing. So it's normally a crowded place. You know, the infrastructure is sort of built around it. There's tons of rafting and kayaking. I mean, there's a lot going for it. But man, that was not a model of the type of treatment of the current conditions that I'm comfortable with. Not to say that, I mean, there were plenty of masks. There were plenty of no masks. And look, I'm not going to live other people's lives, but that's not how I'm living mine. So yeah, needless to say, I just went right through town as quickly as I could, which was challenging because there was a lot of standing in the middle of the trail with a whole bunch of stuff and a bunch of kids running around, and nobody kind of having mindfulness of the fact that this is an active thoroughway. By the way, when I say active thoroughway, holy moly, there are a lot of folks on bikes. A few people walking, but boy, there's a lot of bikes. And it makes sense, you know, the distance between Connellsville and Ohiopyle is only 17 miles. And it's noticeably quieter. So I'm not sure if there's much traffic coming from this way. But between Ohiopyle and Confluence, that's like 12. And I think that there's just a lot going on in between there. The good news, if this is your bag, if you're comfortable doing that, you probably unsubscribed from me a long time ago. But on the off chance that all sounds like great fun and you are still listening, welcome, hi. It's there. It seems to be all wide open. Plenty of water-related activities and stuff too. Just way too compressed of a situation for my liking. So, as I mentioned, bursting through. And the best part of this is that this is my favorite, I think, nearly 20-mile stretch of the trail right here. I wasn't able to get lunch because of the conditions. I just didn't feel appropriate. I've got plenty of snacks, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. I did a brief stop, snacked up a little bit, a little peanut butter crackers, a little Pop-Tart, the usual garbage. But, at the end of this 17-mile stretch here, I'm in Connellsville, and there is a grocery store that I think will be more to my liking in terms of spacing and crowd control and whatnot. I think probably just have a very chill afternoon since I'm banging these miles out. It is getting warmer. So, the nice thing about this green tunnel here is that it will largely shade me. I am wearing my neck gaiter, which I am so grateful I put on because, man, I'll tell you what, I masked up about a mile outside of town. You could just tell what was happening, So I had that thing pulled up the whole time. But it kept the sun off my neck. Hi there. But as I mentioned, it kept the sun off my neck, which it was starting to, I could feel it. So yeah, good to reduce the sun exposure when I can. But passing a fair number of bike tourists. I just literally passed a guy right now who's got the old school kitty litter panniers, which always puts a smile on my face when I see that, because I think that's good, not only just entry level, but may as well be permanent level kind of conveyance. They are rock solid and do very well. So if you're a beginner, just Google kitty litter panniers. I don't think I've ever done a how-to because I've never built them myself, but I've always loved the ingenuity of those things, and I understand they work great. This area of the trail is, I think, slated for resurfacing. I had mentioned that someone had written in, it was supposed to be at the end of July, according to a sign I just saw, between Connellsville and Ohiopyle. I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of that yet, although I am seeing a lot of large gravel, which is unusual for this trail. That seems like a repair thing. So I have a funny feeling that they may be behind schedule. Could have been a variety of factors. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But I wouldn't be surprised if I run into it further on down here. It actually, a sign said, avoid using the trail segment between Connellsville and Ohiopyle. I was like, sorry, man. I kind of need to do that. But as I look at the trail, and I don't know if they've scraped it up or anything, but it's down to bare dirt and just a little bit of I guess I'll call it limestone gristle, because you can hear it crackle. But again, here I'm seeing larger gravel, so I suspect it's possible that there were some kind of interim repairs done during washouts or something along those lines. But all of it is speculation. It does look like a portion of the trail that could use a little bit of refurbish. I just passed mile marker 74 right now, so give you a little sense of all of that. See a raft down through the trees. One of my favorite parts of this trail is how you get a great view of the Castleman River here. And the Castleman's a nice wild river. I'm a fan of wild rivers myself. And it's fun to see rafters. And the only downside is that river access is not great. It's a very steep hill down to the river level. But really between here and Connellsville, to the extent that it's along the river, I think it separates, the trail does, further on down. But it's just stunning, and you get occasionally stellar views. And I think in contrast to the Potomac, which although is a wildish river, it's a slower kind of river, except by Great Falls, of course. It's wild further down the trail, but it's dammed up quite a bit for most of it. So, it's your typical kind of lazy looking river as a result of that. But you do get better access to the river should you want to dip your toes in or fully jump in or throw a line in. Oh, and that's my helmet. Downside to not wearing your helmet on a trail is that sometimes it pops out. Well, that's probably a good sign that it's time to end this section of the tour journal as I pick up my helmet. Connellsville, PA, mile marker 88. I just passed. So I guess I kind of nailed the bit of this wrong. It is actually mile marker 89 while I'll be camping, but we'll go with the whole thing here. Just passing through the area where there's the bike shop. It's really nicely separated path here. It is actually part of the road, and a lot of the homeowners and the Lions Club, they actually plant flowers and whatnot. It's really nice. Looks like there's a new shop here, Natural Products. They have a nice little bike rack for folks. That's pretty great. Connellsville Garden Club, one of the planters. Connellsville's a really cute town. One of my favorites of the trail towns, arguably my favorite. They really open up the doors quite widely to us bike tourists, which I appreciate so much. It's a real, it's really nice to feel welcomed, and I've been in trail towns where it kind of feels like that you're almost like, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? Here it's the opposite. You don't feel terribly welcomed. You're almost an inconvenience. There you go. That's the phrase. Oh, this is interesting. So they were building this. This is the Comfort Inn. I know you can't see this, but I'm rolling past the Comfort Inn, a hotel right here, very easy to get to. I suspect that they are very much a pro bike trail kind of hotel, which is fantastic. So that's an option. But if you are a camper like I am, the real crown jewel here is once you get through the town park, which by the way is right here on the river, so you can jump and do a little swimming if you'd like. The locals certainly do it. There's an outdoor shower if memory serves, so you can rinse off. A lot of folks enjoying the riverfront. Unlike Ohiopyle, everybody's kind of separated out, so that's good. How you doing? Snack bar open. Looks like shower's open. It's an outdoor shower, I think I'd mentioned. Yeah, a town that probably, interesting totem pole, which does not fit the tribes of this area, but we'll go with it. It's definitely a town that, like so many other here in Western PA, they're looking for. How you doing? They're looking for their second wind. Industry has moved on, and I think that Connellsville is embracing the trail. Perhaps as a part of that, but great community, really interesting, beautiful park, takes advantage of being on the riverfront. Nice old rail trestle. Actually, that's not an old, I think that's the active rail trestle I'm going under right here. Added bonus, Amtrak station. So when I am ready to ride trains again, I know I will come back here. I have taken the train to here before. I considered a route that would have me go back or come here via train. I decided that I wasn't ready for that yet. But local school kids have their artwork up here on the fence as you kind of climb out from the river to the trail. But when you come out here, past mile marker 89, to regain the traditional surface, I'm on a paved surface now, you end up with Adirondack shelters. And that is my camp for the night. I look forward to it. I already see a few people who are there. Hot day, very sun-filled. And let's do a live check on the water situation, because this will determine whether I need to purchase it at the grocery store, which is just over there as I look. Gurgle, gurgle, water. We do have water. Fantastic. Well, I will definitely do at least one more section here at the end of day 2, but beautiful day. Started off cool, got hot. Very happy to end it here and enjoy some time in the Adirondacks. Connellsville, PA. From the Adirondacks in Connellsville, PA, it is the end of day 2, a very warm day 2, and I am grateful that I was able to get in pretty early. And, when I think about it, this is probably the lowest effort day that I'll have because it was really mostly a downhill grade. Basically, for the most part, all of tomorrow was uphill, and a good more than half of Monday will be uphill, and then big bombing downhill. So, but that's fine. I've done it before. It's one of those things that, you think as you're coming down the hill in this low grade side that you're like, oh, wow, I'll really notice it going up. And the answer, the reality is you don't notice it a ton until you get tired. Down here in Connellsville, it's going to get hotter. Up in Ohiopyle and Rockwood, it's actually not going to be as hot tomorrow, but still mid-80s. So my intention is to get up and out of here as reasonably quickly as possible. So figure sun's up in the 6 o'clock hour, and I'll probably kind of get that all set up and then roll out till I hit the Martins, grab some stuff, and then just go straight. And if Ohiopyle is going to be any indicator of what it was like today, I don't intend to stop there tomorrow. Maybe snap a few pics and whatnot. You'd just be messed up, but just not hang out like I thought I might. And then then back to Rockwood. Just given the heat and the fact that I'm not getting a shower today, I think I'm leaning towards staying at Husky Haven again, because that's a good inexpensive shower for everything. And just get there and enjoy, and that'll be it. It may be early that I get in. I mean, coming here early to Connellsville is not as big of a deal, but if I'm getting off as early as I was, that makes a good argument to find some things to do, or to really take breaks and maybe hang out by the river along the way. So that may be part of the game tomorrow. But the hammock has been a godsend for this trip. It's just been so nice to get my feet up and hang out, just really let the cool air kind of envelop me, to the extent there's any cool air right now. Not the hottest it's ever been for any of my rides, but definitely on the hotter side. So, hey, summer, man, that's what it's like. I will say I am looking forward to some fall touring coming up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do much more than maybe an overnight in September, because we've got a trip lined up. We're going to work from a seaside location just to kind of mix it up a little bit. We were able to find a rental that seems to have all of the right amenities, and it seems reasonable and within the parameters of all the safety that we want. And I'll work during that, and we'll go to the beach with the dogs in the evening, so that'll be fun. But that'll probably eat up any potential for doing anything more than, kind of an overnight or a quick weekend. But that leaves October, which I definitely intend to get out for at least a good long weekend. The Gap is certainly one of the possibilities. I would love very much to do the back half of this, so we'll have to see how that goes. Well, that's it for day 2.
Statistics: miles biked 44, go orange. Food resupplies 1, ounces of ice cream eaten 16, rattlesnakes 0, overcrowded conditions 1, inactive water fountains 0, big tunnels 1, chili beverages at camp earned 3, flats 0. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours like the Kessel Run. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Didis, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadas, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Stuart Buchan, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robert, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Goffman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Piroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lecco, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCulloch, John Hickman, Jack Smith, Carl Presso, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Dave Fletcher, James Stratakis, David Neves, and new to the society, Mike Lazewski, and thanks also to all past and anonymous members for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.